Oh,
So, when right on our break, you mentioned that you had a story about Frank Sinatra.
oh, Frank Sinatra. Oh, yes. Okay. All right. So year after year, we would have these tennis tournaments. This is when the corporations had big money to spend, and they spent it on goodwill. And they said, let's just send out these TV people all over the world, and they did. So we had these television tennis tournaments. I get so excited thinking about this. In Monaco for 14 years. And one year, our visit to Monaco coincided with Sinatra's touring. You know, he was touring with Rickles. So I was saying, wow, I get to spend a little time with Sinatra. I gotta find him. And this was at the Hotel de Paris. The Hotel de Paris, you have echoes of Cary Grant and Deborah Kerr walking through these beautiful, beautiful hallways with, just everything. And the lovely skylight, the colored glass, beautiful, gorgeous. And from the Belle Epoque, the Belle Epoque. So I'm coming down. I've had a few drinks already, and I'm coming down to the bar. Sinatra, you know, damn, he's not here yet. Go back to the room, and I wait a little while longer. I come down, and no, damn, he's not here. The third time I go down, there he is, with Roger Moore, and the head of the Heineken company, and Roger Moore's Italian wife, who later turned out to be maybe not a positive influence, and Sinatra. So I see him there, and I said, "Hey, Francisco." He said, "Hey, Doc, come on over and have a Jack Daniels." I said, I got very brave. I said, "Only if you pour it." He said, "All right, come on over." So he's pouring, drinking, I'm drinking. I'm getting so plutzed. I cannot believe it. I said, "Sinatra's pouring my drinks. God, this must be a dream." So now Jilly Rizzo is there. Jilly was his brute. He was his bodyguard. And at one point, I mean, Sinatra was feeling no pain and just feeling very loose and feeling comfortable enough to divulge this stuff. He said, "Hey, Jilly, tell him what you used to do." He said, "Really, you want me to get that out?" He said, "Yeah, go ahead. We're among friends. Go ahead." He said, "Okay, all right. What we used to do, we used to come into this joint, you know, a lot of glass and crystal and stuff like that. We'll come in there with my boys." I said, "Let me see the boss." So the boss comes out. I said, "Yes?" He said, "You know, there's a lot of tough guys in this neighborhood. You know, you give me $200 a week. I'll make sure that them tough guys don't come in and bust your joint up. You know what I'm saying? You understand me?" "Yeah, all right." And then Jilly goes, "Ah, ha, 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 ha." And Sinatra's laughing his face off. I'm saying, this is probably something that should not be out there in the world, that Jilly was a thug and an intimidator, one of those things. But it came out that he was doing this stuff, and so Sinatra's walking around with the guy. So anyway, Roger Moore's wife, an actress, an Italian actress, she was not being paid any attention to. So at one point, she's being self-assertive, and she says to Sinatra, "What do you want? Adulation? You want a lot of attention to yourself, huh?" So I've never seen a gesture like this before. He gets one of these paper napkins, and he goes like this, puts it on his head, and just sits there for a minute. I think that was probably the end of Roger Moore's marriage to this insensitive woman, because she has to understand that, of course, he wants attention. You don't bring that up. You know, you don't tell the king that he's inappropriate. But and then later on, I was so high and so happy. God, for Sinatra was pouring my drinks. It's so great. Jack Daniels goes down so smooth, but I was drunk for the next 2 or 3 days. walking in the hallways of the Hotel de Paris, and I see, here comes Sinatra with Jilly. So Frank says, you know, Barbara, his wife, is going to be having a tournament, and maybe give us your phone number and your address. I said, Barbara already has it. Now Jilly, the ape, he said, what do you mean Barbara already has it? You give us the address and phone number. I said, excuse me. I said that Barbara already has it. So he's about to hit me, and Frank says, cool it, cool it. You're right, Bernie. You're right, Doc. It's fine. And he gave me a hug. It was so sweet. And he didn't want to kill me or anything. That was so nice. But anyway, that was Sinatra. He didn't want to ever go to sleep. And that was one of the issues that Dean Martin had with him. Oh, by the way, Dean Martin. Just the way the world adored Sinatra, that's the way Sinatra adored Dean Martin. Sinatra was ashamed of his relatively small hands. He said, but Dino, he's got these big hands with broken fingers. He used to be a boxer. And he had Dean Martin had a tremendous sense of humor. Frank did not have a great sense of humor. But he told this story that Dean Martin told, but Sinatra told it about 15 times. So Dean comes in, there's a meeting of the Rat Pack, and Dean said, you know, our old friend, there was a black performer who had one leg. His name was Pegleg Bates. So Dean comes in and he says, you know, our old friend Pegleg Bates is having some financial problems, so why don't we get together and take up a collection and help him out till he gets back on his foot. Sinatra found that very amusing, and so did I, and so did a number of other people, except the clowns in this room. But that's okay. I don't mind. I got a life outside of here. Only kidding, you punks. It's okay. It's all right. I don't mind. So that was that story.
Well, as long as we're laughing, let's talk about When Things Were Rotten, because I just saw it somewhat recently, and another Mel Brooks creation.
I was under the impression, because Mel Brooks had said to me after Get Smart, he hit me with something that was just made me really feel so good. He said, you made a lot of money for me, kid, which was great, except that was the last thing he ever said to me. Strange. So when Things Were Rotten came along, I figured, I got a shoe in here, I got a leg up, as they say. But that was not to be. So Charlie Callis, remember Charlie Callis? Charlie Callis had the role of Alan Adale. Now Charlie Callis finds out that if he does When Things Were Rotten for $2,225, he can't do his Vegas gigs for $16,000. So he says, fuck that. And he backs out. That was the only way I got in. They called me in. This was the day before it started shooting. I thought, how strange that. But this is the show with the three Dicks. You follow my drift. Dick Dimitri, Dick Van Patten, and Dick Gautier. So the first show is on the roof. It's number one. Second show, number two, number three, it keeps going down, down, down. We ended up only doing 12 shows. But beforehand, Dick Van Patten, his mother told him to always act delighted and surprised, because she was an agent. No matter what happens, act delighted and surprised. So Dick and I both lived in Sherman Oaks, and we would drive into Paramount together. So he said, "Okay, just to keep it straight, let's not both drive in. Let's drive in the same car." So he said, "Okay, you'll pick me up tomorrow morning, you know, whatever it is, 6:30, and we'll drive in together. And don't forget, you'll be here at 6:30, okay? 6:30, okay? We're gonna work it out so we're not confusing. I show up at 6:30. He's out in his driveway, and he says, "Bernie!" Because he was surprised and delighted to see me. So now it's declining in the numbers. And so Dick and I are driving. It shows like way down now on the road. And I said, "Dick, it's not looking very good." He said, "What are you talking about? This is Mel Brooks for free on television." I said, "Dick, we started out a few weeks ago with high ratings, and now it's way down. You know, that sort of is not good." He said, "Come on." He said, he said, "I tell you what, Dick would bet on everything. I would bet on nothing." So Dick says, "Look, they're not going to take this off. If they take it off, I will give you $3,000. If it stays on, all you'll have to give me is $1,000. I didn't take the bet. I could have been a rich man then. But they took it off after 12. We had 4 standing sets. We had the Bonanza indoor forest. We had a stream running through it. We had our own horses. That was the indoor forest. They had another one was the exterior of the castle. Another one was the interior of the castle. 4 standing stages. And they took it off. So these things happen.
Can we cut for a minute? Sure. You have food in your teeth.
Oh my goodness, I'm so embarrassed.
I just didn't want to keep going with that.
Having way too good of a time.
So, Bernie, I wanted to talk before we get into the Love Boat, because I really want to talk to you quite a bit about the Love Boat. But in general about acting, you were also doing in the 70s some dramatic stuff. You did Ironside, Streets of San Francisco. In general, what is your acting process in terms about how much rehearsal you like and how you attack a role, whether it be comedic or dramatic?
Well, it's odd you asked that question because I keep thinking about the Moscow Art Theater. Moscow Art Theater would rehearse for a full year, and then they would have a dress rehearsal for an additional 6 months. But you bring this up. Is it acting or is it just getting it into the can? Which reminds me of doing a Kojak, Telly Savalas. So I'm sitting in the chair. We have a scene where we're at a table. He's opposite me. I'm opposite him. And he comes out, doesn't look at me. Doesn't look. He starts talking. So I respond. I'm saying, "What the hell is this?" He's like, one time looking, I turn around, 2 guys behind me with cue cards. We do the scene. He still doesn't look at me, doesn't say hello, goodbye, anything. He's gone. I'm saying to myself, is it acting or just getting it into the can? So then Raymond Burr, I do an Ironside. Raymond Burr, there's a long time of setting up, and he's sitting in a wheelchair. I'm saying, a detective in a wheelchair. So he said, "You're probably wondering why I'm in a wheelchair." I said, "Yeah, I've thought about it." Ironside meaning the side of the wheelchair. He said, "I told CBS that I didn't want to walk or stand. I did a lot of that in Perry Mason. I didn't want to do it again." I said to myself, what the hell kind of acting is this? So he said, "But, you know, I sort of kicked myself in the behind by doing this because I have to look up at the people I'm talking to, and the power of the lights is damaging my eyes." And I just wanted to say, tough shit. You caused this, and that's how it is. But he was very, very open about the whole thing. So we're chatting, and I'm saying, boy, this is a long time between takes. And I hear some squeaking. They wheel a teleprompter behind me. Okay, this is why he talked so slowly. So there you were, and here it is. But later on, when Telly Savalas did A Love Boat, he was charming and smoking cigarettes and being funny and very delightful. And then when Raymond Burr did A Love Boat, he was giddy. So the difference is when actors are the head of a show, they will be concerned about, will they pick it up? Will they like me? How are my numbers going to be? And all of these concerns. Will I continue with this? Will they take it off? So that was a great lesson. But it had very little to do with acting. It had to do with getting it in the can. So it was a little lesson.
But in terms of preparing for your roles, you know, you do so many accents, and you have, even on Bewitched, as the compliment from Agnes Moorehead was that you can play so many characters. Does that require a lot of forethought and planning and really working with your props, or are you somebody who likes to kind of just wing it in a way?
No, what I like to do is just go over it and go over it and go over it and go over it and go over it. And sometimes I had somebody helping me with this. It's very helpful to find stuff, and the more you go over, the more I go over something, the more I find in the way of authenticity. Because I learned in reading Neil Simon's books when we did the play Rumors. He wrote, when you do my plays, don't do the wagga wagga, because that is tiresome and it just is awful. The comedy is in the character, in the writing of it. So Richard Klein, when he directed this, I got so nervous because I had known that Neil Simon stopped a tour of Rumors. It was at the Parker Playhouse in Florida, and he didn't care for the way it was being done, and everybody's waiting back. They say, God, Neil Simon's going to come back. It's going to be so great. Neil Simon, a great comedy writer. The stage manager comes back with a little note. Neil Simon has stopped this tour. You can all go home. So I said, oh, gee, Neil Simon is going to come and see this at the Whitefire Theater on Ventura Boulevard. He comes in, and Richard Klein had read his book. Be in the character. You're all in jeopardy. You may lose your freedom. You may lose your whole position. You may lose all of your money. The man upstairs has been shot. Play the anxiety. You're nervous when the police come in. That made a gigantic difference. So one night, the man who was one of the characters, patterned after this man in Odd Couple, he came to see it, and he was a great friend of Neil Simon. He said, Neil, you got to see this. It's a great production of Rumors. The night that Neil Simon came, everybody's a wreck, but Richard Klein had come and really tightened everything and made everybody, don't fool around. This is a serious situation. You're all in jeopardy. We're looking through the stage manager's window, and Neil Simon is like, so happy. So we have a picture of Neil Simon and the whole cast after the show, and Neil Simon has a tremendous smile, and he wrote a little note to, Dear Katrina and Bernie, this should have been my New York production at this little rinky-dink theater on Ventura Boulevard. So that's a great key for comedy. Don't screw it up with doing funny faces. You understand me, you punks?
Let's move on at long last to The Love Boat, which I've been dying to get to. So,
only kidding. I'd say this with love.
Understood. So The Love Boat, before it became, almost 40 years ago from when we're talking right now, because it was September 1977 when it became a series, but right before that they did several pilot movie versions of The Love Boat, and you were in.
Okay, they did one. The first one, I think it was 75, with Don Adams and Florence Henderson and some other people, Hal Linden. But the there was always a problem with the cruise director, the lady cruise director. The first lady cruise director, her main claim to fame was she could do bird calls. Hi, welcome aboard. Oh, no, that's not going to work. So they did the second pilot with a lovely girl with beautiful extremities. She really was not even interested in playing the role, but she had beautiful hands and feet, and she would do these inserts for commercials. I said, ooh, what a beautiful foot. Great hands. So, okay, so now no one in the world ever had the privilege of doing 3 pilots, because pilots cost a ton of money, except Aaron Spelling had this great track record with ABC. So we have Gavin in the third pilot, but we don't have a cruise director. What, have we got it yet? No. This is the day before, the night before filming is to begin. We haven't, all of a sudden they find, yeah, we got the girl, Lauren Tweez. So the next day, there she is, perfect apple-cheeked all-American girl, just right physically for this role. And then she did very well that first day, and then, as the world knows, she was having some odd habits, and Aaron Spelling had to let her go after the 6th year. But she was brought back toward the end, and also in Love Boat: The Next Wave, and we even had a romance. But these things happen. Excuse me?
On the show. You had the romance on the show.
Oh, yeah, I had a romance on the show.
Well, you know, and what I was getting at, too, is that of the 3 pilots, you were in the second and third. Correct?
Second and third. Well, in the second one, they brought in Fred Grandy and Ted Lange. Thank you for the French pronunciation. I used to speak professionally.
And so, so you and Fred and Ted and were in the second pilot.
In the second pilot, and then and we remained in it for the third pilot, but they brought in Gavin and Lauren.
Right, because there had been a different captain and different cruise director.
The second captain, or the first captain, was Ted Hamilton, a very handsome Australian model. He was not an actor. He was a very handsome guy, blonde hair, great profile, and all this stuff. But that didn't work. He was busy being beautiful, and you know, show me a mirror, please. So, and the second guy was Quinn Rediker, who was a writer for soaps, and he really didn't work. So everybody was saying, "Gee whiz, what the heck? What's going on here?" So when it came time for ABC to make their decision, there was another show called San Pedro Beach Bums, and the industry was saying, forget about Love Boat, because they've spent so much money with the first pilot, the second pilot, now the third pilot, and there are still holes in it. San Pedro Beach Bums has success written all over it. San Pedro Beach Bums didn't make it. We made it, and the rest is history. It just went on. It created billions of dollars that's with a B, for the cruise industry, and changed the way the world relates to cruising. I say cruising in the way of going on a ship, and not other kind of cruising.
Now, your character originally in that second movie called The Love Boat 2 was named Dr. O'Neill, and I think that is the same name. When Dick Van Patten had previously played the Doctor in the first one, he was Dr. O'Neill.
Yes.
And you inherited the name Dr. O'Neill, and then, of course, as we all know for the series, you became Dr. Adam Bricker. So what is the story behind Dr. O'Neill becoming Dr. Bricker?
Okay, young man, I'm not at liberty to divulge how the name change came about, but leaving it to the imagination. Hy Averback, who directed the first one that I did, which was the second one, he said, Dr. Adam O'Neill, he said, that really is not going to work for you, Mr. Kopell. So he said, we got to change it. Now, this is at midnight. Everybody's throwing it. Call him this and call him that and call him something else. So I said, well, okay, the guy's a very proficient doctor. He chases the ladies, so he's a bit of a, he didn't use the word, that sounds like bricker.
What sounds like brick?
No, but it's close. He said, let's call him Dr. Adam sounds like bricker. So we just changed the P to a B, and that'll be your name. So that's how it evolved. That's not politically correct, but that's what happened.
Now, you'd played a Mexican, you'd played a German, you'd played a Palucci. You couldn't be an O'Neill?
No. Kai Haverback was right. O'Neill didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, now before this, you know, this is going back to once you declare you're good, an army appears to help you achieve it. I had gone to a shrink. He was, luckily for me, he was an athletically oriented guy. So he got me in first jogging. And I came from a dead start of no exercise, nothing. So he got me into jogging. I thought I would die. Then he got me into skipping rope. At first, the pain in your thigh, in your calves is unbearable. So I got into decent enough shape to wear those little pants, and it worked out. So that really helped me prepare to fit into the role of an athletically oriented doctor who chases the ladies and sometimes succeeds. So that's how things you begin to understand that this army does appear to help you achieve your goals.
And here you were in your 40s,
yeah,
and then the role would last into your 50s, playing a sex symbol. Had you played a sex symbol before?
Never. So that was a big shock to me. I mean, the other change is they said, Bernie, would you mind wearing a hairpiece? I said, no problem, because you never argue with a producer if you value your life. So I had a marvelous hairpiece. It was not like Billy DeWolf's. It was not particularly aggressive or over ambitious. And people said, "Oh wait, I never thought you had a hairpiece." Yeah, I had a hairpiece. So one day, Gavin and I and Connie Stevens are on the deck on the actual ship. And we're romancing Connie Stevens, and I got my hairpiece on. And you know, on the ship, when the ship is moving, you got the wind, you got the forward motion. So I'm feeling this movement on top of my head. And the director calls, and we have liftoff. Cut. Get Kopell's damn hat. So I put the hat down. And whenever there were scenes on the deck, Gavin and I would. Gavin, of course, didn't wear a hairpiece. He put his hairpiece aside, and we had our hats pulled down tight on the. But in the studio, there'd be a grip off to the side with a very gentle fan, and it would have the ladies' silk dresses flutter just a little bit, and have the men's just a little bit moving. But on the deck, we have liftoff. So that was the change. But the whole thing was just remarkable, because the frame of reference in all of these other shows were, you're in Hollywood. You get done with your work, you go outside the studio, and you're in Hollywood. But with Love Boat, you could go on with your significant other, boyfriends, girlfriends, wives, husbands, children even, and go. So we get to Academy Award winners. We had Academy Award winners like you wouldn't believe. We had Ernie Borgnine, Marty. We had Eva Marie Saint, on the waterfront. We had Shirley Jones, Elmer Gantry. We had Ray Milland, Lost Weekend. And we had Shelley Winters. Shelley Winters. We're going to the Mediterranean, and Eva Marie Saint and Shirley Jones are sitting in the first class, 747, giggling like schoolgirls. Oh, we're going to have a great adventure in the Mediterranean. It's going to be great. So I was upstairs. They used to have this lounge upstairs, very opulent. And I hear some kind of a fuss down below. What is it? I come down the stairs. Shelley Winters is sitting in first class on the floor. What's the problem? She's unhappy with her seat in first class. It went on this way. Disruptive, look at me, but very counterproductive. So one day we're on the island of Capri. We have to come in. It gets to be very difficult for the crew and the cast to do something that's on a location, because at Capri, the dock was not large enough to accommodate our big ship. So we had to take all of our equipment and all of the actors and all the crew on tenders, these little ships, little boats, and take all of the equipment, take it to the island, unload it, put it on trucks, and take it to the location. Very difficult. So Shelley Winters, she gets to and we have to be back on the ship at 4 o'clock, and there are paying passengers. Oh, the ship has got to go. And Shelley Winters doesn't like the way her hair is, and she doesn't like the lines, and she wants to change things. Ernie Borgnine, who had experience with her on Poseidon, ripped into her with every Italian curse that no one in the world had ever heard of. And I think that's what she was aiming for. But that was the one fly in the ointment that we had. But Eva Marie Saint was a dream throughout the whole thing. They had a magician on the ship. Okay, who'd like to be a volunteer? Eva, she wanted to get into everything. I volunteer. What's your name? Eva. Where are you from? From Hollywood. Everybody in the world knew she was Eva Marie Saint, great star, Academy Award winner, but the magician. So she would help with his little tricks, and afterwards, let's hear it from Eva from Hollywood, yay! And a big applause, and the guy thought, I'm doing so well, I should ask for more money. This is really great. And so, okay, so another thing, we were outside the Parthenon in Greece, and they're setting up, and I was studying for a play that I was going to be doing when we got off. So I'm reading the play, studying the play, and they said, Bernie, what are you doing? I look up, Eva Marie Saint. I said, well, I'm studying for this play that I'm going to be doing when we get back. She said, would you like me to cue you? I said, oh, no, I couldn't. You're an Academy Award. She said, no, I do it for all my friends. I said, really? She said, yes. And she cued me. Eva Marie Saint. And I was thinking, boy, did she cue Marlon Brando when they did On the Waterfront? She was that kind of a giving person. And Shirley Jones. We're sitting on the island of Mykonos. It's a lunch thing, and we're sitting and rehearsing our scenes, and there is about 50 Greek extras, and there are squid hanging on wires all around the place. All of a sudden, Shirley starts giggling. Now her mascara is running down. I said, Shirley, come on, you're an Academy Award winner. You're a pro. Straighten up. She said, I can't help it. We're here in the Mykonos, and all these nice people are around, and the squid is hanging down, and we're being paid. I said, Shirley, come on. She was makeup, repair. So they repaired her mascara, and she was and is, she's a dear friend now. Shirley Jones, just that's a natural human being. And great friend. She just broke her hip into 3 places. But different personalities. And Ray Milland, Ray Milland. American night comes, and they're serving the turkey with a traditional breast up. And up till then, he'd been this sedate Britisher talking about this and that and that and this and so forth and so forth. And they put the turkey in front of him. He used language. He said, they continue to ruin the turkey, deferring to that insane Norman Rockwell picture with the breast up and drying out the damn turkey. He said, turn the damn thing upside down in the last hour and baste it. Ever since then, I've been doing it exactly that way. You know, you season it the way you like, but in the last half of the cooking, you turn it upside down with the breast down, and you baste it, and the breast is moist, if you like a moist breast. You follow my drift. I'll get you for this. It's the first thing I do.
Those were some of your more exotic trips because those were the ones on real cruises.
Yeah.
The majority of the shows, though, were filmed on sound stages, correct?
Yes, the sound stages. And Juliet Prowse. Oh, I had a crush on Juliet Prowse forever. I mean, legs and the gammon-like face and the beautiful lips and all of that. And she'd gone with Sinatra, another intimidating plus. So I get this great script. Samantha I thought she was my ex-wife, but we're still married because I'd given her $500 to give to a lawyer, but she gave it to a butcher's cousin who said he was a lawyer. He went away with the money. So we're still married. She comes on and I said, oh my God. Our relationship we were very passionate with each other, but we had annoying habits. I kept my socks on when I slept, and she combed her hair 200 times, and we couldn't get along because of that. So just being with her was such a delight. She was so sweet, and I've always had a discomfort with dancing, and she was one of the great dancers of the world. So I said, oh God, at a certain point in the script it says, Doc and Samantha dance. I said, oh no. So I was about to apologize, and she said to me, Bernie, do me a favor, please. I'm the world's worst social dancer, so please, you know, be kind. I said, oh. And I said, what a mensch this woman is to be that way. So then we had the ultimate scene where we're in bed together. It's evident that we have had an incredible, passionate night, and we're waking up in the morning and we're both exhausted. I try to get out of the bed to get a little breathing time, and she follows me to bring me back into the bed, and it's like very sexy for network television. So just before the scene in bed, and I'm saying, if God is good, my hairpiece won't fall off, and I'll know what I'm saying, and I'm in bed with Juliet Prowse. I said, okay, I just concentrate. So just before the scene, there's 50 people around, the camera, the lighting people, the sound, everything. So she said, you know, and she starts telling me a story. I said, what? Wait, I got to concentrate. She said, no, this is a great story. So she says, Charles Boyer had a scene like this with a very attractive, sexy lady. And just before the scene, he said to her, you know, sweetheart, if possibly during this very sexy scene, if possibly I get, how you say, aroused, forgive me, please. If possibly I don't get aroused, forgive me, please. But that was her. And one time she came in on a different show. She said, hi, guys, I had my tits done. How wonderful for you. She said, no more Kleenex stuffed in. But there was a sort of a childish charm about her, and so sweet. And then she died of pancreatic cancer, damn it. But life.
How did you get cast in the first place? We didn't talk about that yet, about first as Dr. O'Neill and then becoming Dr. Bricker.
Begging, pleading, supplicating. How did I get cast? Well, I had this nautical jacket. I said, I got this jacket, and that's really going to sell the thing that I'm a nautical guy. I'm a nautical guy. It was a blue with the brass buttons, and it really was nautical looking, and it had some nautical looking stuff over here. I said, this is it. So there's a guy, another actor. I said, oh crap, what do you want? He said, I'm here. He said, that jacket is so beautiful. I'm here for the doctor, he says to me. I said, can I borrow that jacket? So right away, you're supposed to be generous and kind. And I said, no. I said, I'm here to audition for the doctor, and this is my jacket, and I'm sorry, but I have to say, I'm sorry, no. No, you can't have it. Okay. And that's why I got the job. Only kidding. I got it because this brilliant Candy Azara and I had a scene in my audition. And she was funny and delightful. And I was a little seductive in the scene. And I was in very decent shape. And it was my jacket, my nautical jacket with the brass buttons. I tested and I got it. But what I left out was the part where you wait for months staring at the phone. Are you ringing? Is the phone ringing? Not yet. Did you hear that? Was that the no, it wasn't. This anxiety builds up. And finally, after a number of months, you got it. Oh, because sometimes you don't. So there's a lot of that. So that just turned into a dream-like job. And I was in the Navy before that. And so the last cruise we took coming into San Pedro, I passed by my ship, the USS Iowa, which is now a permanently docked museum. This ship that took me all over the world. But they said, well, what's the difference between the Iowa and the Pacific Princess? Well, just about everything. You want to go to the bathroom? Okay, this is what we had on the Iowa. Okay, you're a swabby. It's about a 10-foot trough with seawater running through. And there are slats where you sit, but there are other slats as well where other guys can sit too. So anybody who likes privacy, forget about it. So you're sitting there, a guy comes, sits next to you, hey, how's it going? Oh, gee, I don't want to be here with this. The difference was gigantic. Also on the Iowa, which took me all around the world, and that was a great blessing. I was so grateful for that. You heard of bunk beds with 2, 1 and 2. This was 2 plus 1. 1, 2, 3, and everything is very close. And if you had the bottom bunk, and 2 other guys were on top, it was very tricky because if they have to go to the bathroom or anything at night, the guy from the top comes down, you get stepped on. And if there's like noise of certain things that guys would sometimes do at night, you're tuned into that, and you say, I really would like to sleep, and you hear squeak, squeak, squeak. I said, oh no. You get stepped on, and you get that spring symphony. It is what we used to call that. So the difference is when you get on this gorgeous Pacific Princess, you go to the bathroom, you got doors you can close. You close the door and you say, here I am, all by myself. But sometimes you get lonely. But the difference is enormous. And if I ever get a book out, I'll talk about that. But on the way to the last new Pacific Princess, we passed by my old ship.
Talk about literally coming full circle.
Literally coming full circle. pass by, and the lines of the Iowa are very, very graceful and very beautiful. And the Iowa still has the bathtub. When President Roosevelt, our wartime president, he had paralysis. They put in a bathtub specially for him, and how brave they were during the war, where there were German submarines in the water. He went from, I don't know exactly where he started out from. Maybe it was the West Coast, to go to Yalta to meet with Stalin and Churchill. How brave of them, braving the President of the United States, going through maybe torpedo-laden waters. But it still had that bathtub. So when nobody was looking, I sort of sat in the bathtub. I said, here I am, in the bathtub. And I was at Norfolk, Naval Air Station, Norfolk. That was my first duty. Okay, I was a yeoman striker. Who's up for the library? You could hear the crickets. These guys, a lot of these guys were rednecks. They didn't care for books. Some of them were actually afraid of books. I said, who's here for the library? Who wants to be a librarian? I'm hearing nothing. I said, me? I would like it. I got the job of librarian because nobody else wanted it. And I got the job of librarian on the Iowa as well. So I said, then I got to read more books than I did at NYU. So it was a very cushy thing, and there were a lot of rednecks at the time. There was a chief who was giving a lecture. He was sending out young sailors out into the world with misinformation. He said, now you understand that our forefathers framed the Constitution. So we had some wise-ass lawyers who said, excuse me, sir, do you mean when you say frame the Constitution and the Bill of Rights that they framed it like you put a frame around a picture? He said, what the hell else do you think I'm talking about? Sure, they framed it. Damn, what the hell's wrong with you, boy? He sent guys out believing that our forefathers were carpenters or something. So that was odd on the Naval Air Station, and I got so lucky. I got the assignment on the ship, the beautiful ship. We went all over the world. But the reason I came here so early today, I'm compulsively early now because we were in Istanbul. I came back to the ship 2 minutes late, and my punishment was scrubbing out bread plates, bread pans all day long because I was late. So now I was here about 3/4 of an hour early. But back in Istanbul, when you would get liberty on the ship, being a military man, they called the little liberty chits, drunk chits, because sailors have a propensity to get drunk. So we're at the Istanbul Hilton, and one of our guys, a bosun's mate, is so drunk, he sees a bar stool, and he thought it would be great to bring that back to the ship. Now, you know how big a pea coat is? You know how big a bar stool is? He tried to put it under his pea coat. It didn't fit. The bar stool is sticking out. Now, there are SPs, Shore Patrol, standing at the door just waiting for this lunatic to come out. And, of course, they stopped him, and they put the bar stool back. But this is what some sailors will do. But the time on the ship was a great education for me, reading the books and seeing all these places. And a poignant thing is you're in the United States Navy, and you are committed to protect this country and all its inhabitants with your life, if necessary. So I had a black friend. He said, let's go off the base and have a bite. He said, don't you know this is a Jim Crow state, Virginia? He said, I can't go off and have a cheeseburger. He's wearing the uniform of the United States Navy. So when I visited Brazil and Argentina, mixed race couples going down the street, having a marvelous time, feeling free and comfortable, and not in our own country. This was appalling to me. But it's changed a great deal, because Ted Lange wrote a play, George Washington's Boy, about Billy Lee, who was George Washington's personal slave, and we did it in Winston-Salem. Tremendous improvement with race relations. Right outside the theater we did it at, mixed race couples sitting, enjoying themselves, having a swell time. But at that time, in 1961, this crap was going on in this mixed up country, but it's been resolved. Anyway, so much for that.
Well, and speaking of Ted, I wanted to ask you about him and the rest of the, the Love Boat cast. What was it like working in an ensemble like that with Ted Lange, Fred Grandy, you mentioned Lauren Tweez, Gavin MacLeod, Jill Whelan?
Gavin and I were the old farts of the company. We would get together at 7:15, early call, have our cup of free coffee, and just be so tickled that we had a job. We got a job. This is so great. Even before we knew that it would be this worldwide success. It was in 98 countries. And Gavin had come from a very sticky situation with McHale's Navy, because he had done the film with Cary Grant, whatever the name of it was, something about a submarine. And he'd had a nice little role in that. So he figured when he got to do McHale's Navy, this would be a step up. It wasn't. Gavin had this problem of gaining and losing the same 50 pounds again and again and again and again, losing, gaining. He said, Bernie, when I did McHale's Navy, he said, they stuck me on the back lot of Universal, and I blocked out the Black Tower in the filming, and I had nothing to do. So he quit the show eventually. I said, well, my friend Gavin has just got how sad, how awful for him. Then he got the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Prestige. As a result of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, he was called in at the last minute to do Captain Steubing for Love Boat. So the same kind of up and down in our business. You never know. Don't give up, because around the corner something good will very likely happen if you keep coming at him. So there it was. And Fred, Harvard graduate, magna cum laude, overqualified for the role of Gopher. Brilliant guy, and we wrote some of the scripts. The one we were most proud of was with Scatman Crothers. There's a black studies major, a girl who comes on, Vernee Watson, and she sees Scatman, who's making a living selling peanuts and popcorn at the ballparks. And she has disdain for him because he's pulling down the whole black experience by selling the stuff at the ballpark. He's not having a job like a doctor or a lawyer or something on a high level. And she finds, and she has a romance with Ted. So we wrote this script, and she has this line where she's supposed to say, Ted and she are out on deck at night. Stars, it's a beautiful night at sea. And she's supposed to say, he says, this is such a beautiful night. And she's supposed to say, our ancestors made the crossing below decks in chains and never got to see any of this. A very poignant line that we wrote. So instead she says, our ancestors made this crossing. Wait, stop! Your ancestor, I had to stop it. because it was incorrect. I said, sweetheart, your ancestors didn't go to Acapulco. They were pulled out of their lives into slavery. So she got it straightened up. But as a writer, sometimes you can get really emotional about this. One change of one line can change the whole meaning of everything. So she understood what the deal was. And Teddy was very happy with that. We wrote it for Ted because he was getting the short end of writing. So
did you find that because he was African American that he would get the short end of writing? That
he certainly felt that he couldn't, in the beginning, he couldn't greet the passengers as they were entering. He had a tough time in the beginning, but he fought his way through. He wanted to direct. They wouldn't let him direct. They wouldn't let him direct. They wouldn't. Eventually, because he kept coming at them, they let him direct. He turned out to be one of the very best directors ever. He got it done on time. He was very good with everybody. Very good with everybody. He got it done. There was one thing. Alejandro Rey, with whom I worked on Flying Nun, was a swordsman, so to speak, and Linda Crystal was on the show, and it appeared to him, being her manager, that I was having a romance with Linda Crystal. So he was very upset about this, and he challenged me to a duel. So I'm in a duel. So now he's chasing me in the duel around the ship, under the steps and here and there. And at one point he's supposed to say, "You lily-livered coward." So you lily-livered shit. Cut. You okay? No, that's okay. That's okay. Gets to the line again. You limmy. Damn. I'm okay. I'll be okay. 3 or 4 times. So Teddy's directing this. So he said, "Alejandro, come here." He changes the line. And so he gets to that place again. So he says, instead of saying, "You lily-livered cow," he says, "You big chicken." So Teddy solved the problem. But Alejandro, I'm ending these stories with this tragic thing that Alejandro died of cancer, which is another awful thing. I should have left it with the happy part.
You ended the big chicken. That's why you end that
story. You big chicken, you could end it there.
When you would write stories for The Love Boat, The Love Boat had such a specific format to it.
Yeah.
In that every guest would start with a greeting, they'd end with disembarking, and then in between there'd be a certain number of beats of their scene. Was it a particular challenge to write a Love Boat script?
Well, the formula, it was certainly formulaic, was that people would come on. Some people would come on with a problem, like a husband and a wife would come on and they were fighting. But we had what we called the page 58 resolutions. Like Tom Bosley came on and he was paralyzed. Page 58, he scoots up, he stands up. What happened? It's a miracle, and that covered everything. But that's what it was. I mean, it never pretended to be cutting-edge drama. It was a romantic fantasy where everything ended up fine. And that's what it was. And the whole thing started with this lovely lady, Geraldine Saunders, who I became very close to. She was a cruise director. This started the whole thing. She was a cruise director, and she jotted down the captain and his little quirks, and the doctor, and he was chasing the ladies, and the this and the that, and she wrote this book called The Love Boats, with an S at the end. And Bud Baums, who was a friend of Doug Kramer, he brought it to Doug Kramer. Doug Kramer thought it'd be a good idea. He brought it to Aaron Spelling, and that was the beginning of our gigantic adventure where the cruise industry, not only Princess, but the cruise industry is still benefiting in general from our show, because we showed people that cruising is very easy. You pack and unpack once, the world comes to you, and it's simple and it's relatively inexpensive. And that was my pitch for Princess.
Can you tell me, what was Doc like as a doctor?
He was proficient. He was a proficient doctor. As a matter of fact, I had to do a splenectomy. Not everybody can say that. John McIntyre and Jeanette Nolan came aboard, and we connected. I started out saying, families, you know, what are families? You know, give me Vegas. So, but I got very friendly with them. They got very friendly with me, and they were athletically oriented, and so we had some fun. And then I got involved with them. They got involved with me, and we were singing together and having a great time. So she, in her athleticism, stumbles down the stairs. A rib punctures her spleen. I have to do emergency surgery in an operation I know nothing about. So we connect the ship to shore. I'm calling my mentor on the shore, and all of a sudden, the static comes aboard, and I don't know what he's saying anymore. I can't hear. And I finish the operation on my talent as a physician. But the Love Boat gives me this great magic power to cure people when I'm not chasing them. And I finished the operation. And that was great fun. And we wrote that also. Folks from Home was the episode. But John McIntyre had this great reputation. They said, script supervisors said, John McIntyre is the greatest matching actor. I said, what is that? What do you mean by that? If he has a cigarette and it calls for another shot, he knows when it's down to just that certain place, or when he's drinking a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, he knows how to match. Boy, that guy's a great actor. Because script supervisors find that very important. It is. Because if the clock is in the wrong place, all of a sudden, it was really 5:30, and all of a sudden, it's 3:30. No, they don't go backwards like that. It's very important. So he was good at that. But he and his wife, Jeanette Nolan, they did acting together, and they were great.
Doc had, you talked about how he chased women. He had a lot of romantic storylines over the 9 seasons.
Oh, yes.
Any particular romantic moments that stand out for you?
I had so much kissing to do that eventually I ended up with liplash. Painful. You know, I needed remedial help with that. But we had some beautiful, we had Jill St. John. We had a big break from morning till afternoon. And I said to Jill, who is certainly one of the great beauties of the world, I said, Jill, I am so looking forward to your scene this afternoon when you come down the steps from that second level and walk down in your bikini. She said, no, you'll be disappointed. I said, well, disappointed? You're one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood. She said, I have no ass. You have no ass? I'm so sorry to hear that. And I was saying, what the heck? Why would she say that? So I'm watching the scene in the afternoon, and she's coming down to say, what a beautiful, beautiful lady, gorgeous. And she had just enough, but in her mind, she didn't have enough. Tragic, but true.
It was Ted Bessel with the eyes, right? That was her. No, that was her neurosis.
We had Charo, who was a brilliant comedian. And she goes from doing her coochie stuff and great malapropisms, and then they bring out a guitar, and she is a prize-winning flamenco guitarist. Prize-winning. she's astonishing on the guitar, and she's a great friend. And she was pregnant with little Shell, her husband's name, when she was married to Xavier Cugat. This was a marriage of convenience, you might say. But when she said, I'm in love with, she didn't say it so anyone would understand what she's saying with that accent. She said, I'm in love with this Swedish guy, Shell, who spells his name Kjell. The son's name is Shell, like Shell gasoline. They simplified it. So with Xavier Cugat's blessing, she married Shell, and she was pregnant with Shell, the right way to spell it, during the show, the Coochie Coochie Girl. So she was very much a part of the beginning days of Love Boat. So we had some really, and Tom Hanks, whose films universally have grossed over $40 billion. He comes on the ship after Bosom Buddies, and he's a college friend of Gopher, and he's, hey, Gopher! So he was on our show, and Kathy Bates was on our show, and she won an Academy Award also. But it was amazing. You never knew who was going to show up, and it was great fun.
One name we didn't mention yet, Ted McGinley.
Oh, Ted McGinley. Too bad about his looks. Ted McGinley was Ace, the photographer. And he was on it sort of periodically. But he was a great kid, great sport. We played tennis together. We played water polo together. We went all over the world. We were in Mexico playing polo and what do you call it when you
volleyball?
Volleyball. Thank you very much, sportsman. Ted's a great guy, and he was also at the tennis tournament I had in Palm Springs. He sent me tickets from 1985 for Christmas time. He's a great kid.
How did you handle the celebrity of being a heartthrob on the Love Boat?
I think I handle it well. Putting my checks into the bank, being frugal, not getting carried away with. I mean, we were in 98 countries. I mean, come on, 98 countries, and in some of them, they had titles underneath. People would speak just as we spoke, but they had titles for people who were in Greece or Athens or someplace. But it was a treat, and I'm so glad that I had the balance of having driven the taxi and having the Kirby vacuum cleaner thing and doing all these caca jobs. I had the balance of deep, profound appreciation when I got this wonderful, wonderful gift of a job. And I still am very grateful to that, because it changed everything in my life. It gave me a bank account. So that was lovely.
Did you have much interaction during the show's production with producers Aaron Spelling and Doug Kramer?
Yeah, sometimes. Well, Doug had no problem with coming with us sometimes, and Doug would come with his significant other, and he enjoyed that. But Aaron had a hang-up about. I think he had a friend who was in a plane crash, who died in a plane crash, and he would not fly. But he was okay with taking a train and getting on the ship. And I did the first scene with his daughter Tori Spelling, who really, I don't think she wanted to be an actress. I think her mother wanted it more than she did. And a little scene, very cute scene with her doll was broken. Her doll was sick. An arm fell off or something, and I helped put the arm back together again. A very sentimental scene. And that was her beginning days. She really didn't care for it, but she was in Beverly Hills 90210. I did one of those. Um, I had a scene with Ian Ziering, nice kid, and I told him basically his great medical thought: wear sunblock. I'm always trying to help people, except these kids.
Well, that's something Doc would have learned on the Love Boat. I mean,
Oh yes, you had to
probably a pioneer in sunblock.
You had to have sunblock, and aspirins and ibuprofen for hangovers.
How has the show's theme song for the Love Boat followed you over the years?
When we did the whatever it was, the 70th anniversary, Jack Jones came with us. It was such a big deal. They had 50 bottles of champagne. We had all of the stars who were on the show come to Fort Lauderdale.
This was just a few years ago for a
Yes,
Princess anniversary.
and Florence Henderson. Tori Spelling was supposed to be the MC of it, but she backed out. She probably realized that Florence Henderson would be better at that, and Florence Henderson did a brilliant job of emceeing it. So it was a very elaborate, and they had all of the owners on it. And these owners now, they own 5 cruise ship companies. The Princess, Holland America, Cunard, what am I leaving out? A few other ones. They own an armada of ships because they're so successful.
And I know that you were saying that Jack Jones performed the theme song.
Oh, Jack Jones
at that
performed
event.
the theme song. Beautiful voice, good guy, and he's very popular. Fred and I were in Australia once. Oh, let's go see Jack Jones. Had this thing way out in the Tules, so we went to see Jack Jones, and Jack Jones said, "We know when I first started, it used to bother me when people would shout out something." He said, "Now I really enjoy it and I play off it," because his father was Alan Jones, who sang the Donkey Serenade again and again and again. But I think Jack has a better voice than Alan Jones.
The Love Boat lasted 9 full seasons, a 10th kind of de facto season of TV movies, so 10 seasons really. Why do you think the show lasted so long and was so popular?
Because people sat around with their families and they were comfortable and they never had to worry about murders. I mean, today, it's copycat television again. So many shows have this, a dead body is in the middle, and there's one person on one side, another person on the other side, NCIS, all of these crime shows. They have to have a dead body talking about, well, it's this and that and something else, and he was murdered. And the guy I keep thinking about the guy laying there. He says, "Don't breathe. Don't show that you're breathing. Don't show that you're really alive." Is the camera off me? Okay, I can breathe now. But what is that all about? But then again, when Love Boat became a success, there was Flying High, which is Love Boat in the air. There was Super Train. There was Hotel, all copycats, because this is the way television goes. And you got this reality baloney stuff happening, the reality and celebrity tree houses, or what, bowling for towels, all of this brilliant stuff. Hey, hold it down, will you?
How did you learn that the Love Boat was coming to an end, or were you ready at that point?
Never. I shut down when it was over. It was actually 13 years, because it was like 10 years, and then we did 3 2-hour specials afterwards. And you think this is going to go on forever. I mean, they flew us first class all over the world on 747s, and they even started with mileage back in those days. I said, "What mileage? Who needs that?" Now I'm very happy with mileage. I'm going to Memphis in a few weeks. Mileage, love it. But we didn't even have to bother going up to the ticket counter. There was a liaison at LAX who said, just come follow me. He had all the tickets ready. He'd come into the first class lounge, sit there. Yes, off with his head, and take care of that, take care of this, and ushered onto the plane. It didn't have to go through customs even, so we could have got away with murder. And then you come down to the real world, and it's a very different place. So I had shut down for a while, and then I started doing plays. I said, come on, wake up, life is still going on. So it can be a challenge when something like that ends. And some people, you know, there's a list of people who, when their shows have gone off, they go off. But being a mature adult, you say, okay, time to move on. That's over with. But it's not fully over with, because we're very likely going on a cruise on the sometime in May. We've gone on other cruises. We're the godparents of the new ships. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. Thank you, Lauren Tweez, for coming up with that. So it's something that will always be a part of me, and I'll be a part of it, and it'll be a part of me.
Well, great. Well, we'll take a break here, and then we'll come back and talk about some of the post-Love Boat stuff.
Absolutely.